We back! Episode 2 coming at you.
Lots of route marching, lots of sleepless nights, and lots of pressure put on to see if we could handle.
And all the time, this issue of, do I really want to be here? And of course, some people found out that sacrifice for them was not worth it.
And about 3 a.m. in the morning, running down the road in a pair of shorts and bare feet, I told the instructor, Joe Glenn, as he is now, Joe Fortinga then, to stick his ass up any place he liked, and I was leaving. And that was the end of the course.
A lot of this is motivation, man. A lot of people think they want to wear that tan beret in SAS, but when they get there, they realize quickly that they were underprepared, and they didn't want it that bad. Happens all the time in the SEAL teams. Cats, shit, we got guys getting to the SEAL teams and realize that their job is real, and then they don't want to do it, and they leave. Everybody wants that glory. Everybody want to be that dude hanging out that helicopter until they got to be that dude hanging out that helicopter, and they realize they don't want that fire.
It's the next phase of selection for New Zealand's elite SAS unit. Those who survive the physical challenges of day one now face a far tougher test.
The biggest challenge on our selection course is the second, third and fourth days.
Like SAS troopers operating behind enemy lines, the volunteers must navigate a route back to base via a series of checkpoints. Deceptively simple, open country navigation will prove the downfall of most on selection.
Also, that's the isolation factor, minimal communication, and of course it's controlled in terms of how much sleep and food they get.
The effects of food and sleep deprivation and strength-sapping pack work are intended to play havoc with their ability to function.
That dude just slung his pack up on his back. I guess it probably weighs 40 pounds. From the likes of everything he got on, he's probably packing 70 pounds maybe. He got a gun, that's another 6 pounds. So he probably looking at 80 pounds of movement weight. You can tell right there, that terrain ain't flat, so they going up and down. Yeah, 3 days, no food, no water, no sleep. Well, they got water, but probably no food and no sleep. Wearing some cats out. That's the way they do it. A lot of weight in the Bergen, a lot of miles on the feet.
Reading a map proves a struggle.
How long do you reckon it'll take you?
1 hour, 12 minutes done.
There is absolutely no help from those observing.
There's no encouragement on the selection course because the individual has to be self-motivated.
The NZSAS seek men who can think on their feet and operate alone. For some, this lack of guidance causes unexpected pressure, which increases as the pace hots up.
A lot of people know they've got a certain amount of time, so that often weighs on people's mind. If they make an incorrect route choice, that often plays quite heavily.
When you look at A to B, it might be the look most direct and fast, but you go A through D and E to get to B.
What people don't realize is it's a lot harder to walk over a mountain than it is to walk around it. Now, you may have to walk twice as far going around the mountain, but it's 10 times faster and it's a lot easier because, believe it or not, walking up the mountain is hard, but walking down the mountain is just as hard and just as slow. So I'd much rather travel fast going around it, terrain contouring, using the terrain to my advantage to try to stay at the same elevation level. I can travel a lot faster and a lot further with a lot less wear and tear on my body.
My nav wasn't so hot. The thing I did was made sure I was quick on my feet, so if I made an error, I could make it up.
Sadly, even some of the more experienced soldiers have not had enough instruction or practice at navigation.
They know they've made a mistake, and then people start thinking, I'm behind. How far behind am I? What am I really doing out here? Is this getting too tough?
Once you've fallen behind in time, it's difficult to make it up.
You're put in a position where a lot of people are thinking about quitting.
And then they start that self-doubt process.
And that's where people start to drop out.
It's an unceremonial departure from selection for those who have given up.
That second, third and fourth day is where we have the highest attrition rates.
As the days blur together in the navigational phase, the volunteers struggle with the debilitating effects of sleep deprivation.
We keep them occupied and awake because we also meter out the amount of sleep that they have.
Despite an increasingly fragile emotional state, they must maintain the highest levels of soldiering.
They're not normally carrying their rifle with 2 hands on the weapon, ready for use. It'll be frowned upon.
1, 2, 3, 4.
It isn't long before exhaustion and the grind of hard days take their toll.
Timings are harder and the food is less, and people push themselves further and harder each day until they just blow.
It's quite easy to see who's prepared and who's not. You know, are they still presenting themselves at checkpoints upright and quite fresh, or are they head down, a bit moping, maybe look like they're doubting themselves?
By now, even basic navigation is a challenge in concentration.
And it becomes very mental, especially towards the end, because you're not getting food and you're not getting sleep.
Your body keeps going. I mean, the pretty amazing thing. The pain is here.
Physically, mentally and emotionally low, more and more volunteers fall further behind.
That's that decision point. I mean, you can leave the pack there and walk away. You actually that pack back on your shoulders and keep going.
I will say this psychologically, picking up a heavy ruck, time you do it is demoralizing. Every time you put it on, it's like, God, no, it's 100 pounds. I'm just telling you. And like I said before, if you got to put your ruck on sitting down, then roll over onto all fours, and then use a tree to stand up, you got some weight in your ruck. You got some weight in there. It ain't never a good day when you putting that small house on your back and you getting ready to move out on like a 10 movement. It ain't never a good day. But, you know, that's the business. That's the job. That's the life. So if you can't get over it and you can't get with it, then you probably ain't going to do very well.
But these soldiers are drawn on by ambition to be part of a distinguished band of brothers. An elite which has participated in conflicts around the globe since 1955. Like its modus operandi, little is known of the unit's origins. Germany had forced Britain into desperate retreat. The British retaliation would not be through conventional airstrikes or using divisions of Allied tanks. Instead, it would come from a small British land unit that targeted enemy supply lines and stationary aircraft in hit-and-run raids. This was the birth of the SAS, the Special Air Service, the brainchild of a brilliant Scots Guard, Lieutenant David Stirling. Large raids lacked the necessary element of surprise, so Stirling devised a plan involving small groups of highly trained and superbly motivated men, with more than a touch of maverick.
Small groups inserted behind the enemy lines, it could inflict damage quite out of proportion to the number of people involved.
Even their name, the Special Air Service, was designed to fool German intelligence that the attacks were from large air divisions. The SAS soon linked up with another motorised commando raiding party called the Long Range Desert Group, or the LRDG. Only 100 men strong, the LRDG was stacked with New Zealand soldiers.
He knew of New Zealanders as being, as he put it, farmers, and they knew how to look after their vehicles. They're very adaptable. If there's anything that could be done, they would do it.
I love it. Go get them farmers. Them cats that are up at 3:30 in the morning, watering the flock, feeding hay to the horses and the cows, taking care of the emus. I think emus is New Zealand. I might be wrong, but I'm going to give a shout out to the emus. I'm just telling you, man, a farmer knows how to work, man, knows how to shovel shit, knows how to get work done. I'm going to go with the farmers every day of the week.
Like the SAS, the LRDG's methods were unconventional and missions clandestine.
It wasn't normal for the Long Range Desert Group to wear any insignia that indicated who they were. A shirt, a singlet, pair of shorts, and mountain climbing boots, and socks. That was our uniform. And a smile.
Together, the SAS and LRDG travelled across the deserts, wreaking havoc against the enemy.
Shooting up convoys, blowing up dumps. They found them, and raiding airfields. But they say that the SAS and the Long Range Desert Group destroyed more planes on the ground than the Air Force did in the whole Egyptian campaign.
North Africa was New Zealand's introduction to the SAS. It would be the start of an enduring relationship, which today sees a new generation of hopefuls aspiring to join. And as the navigational phase moves into its final day, weary bodies rebel under the relentless pack marching.
I got major blisters, my feet were majorly swollen, to the point that a few days into the selection, I couldn't take my boots off, or else I'd never be able to put them back on again.
When you finish Hell Week, one of the things that was absolutely shocking to me, my feet swelled up to the size of a balloon. My feet were this big. Oh my God. They're like, it'll go down in a day. And then by Sunday evening, we got done with Hell Week, Friday afternoon. My feet were swollen all the way through Saturday. And then Saturday, they started going down. Sunday, they were back to normal. But he ain't lying, man. He ain't lying. 75 kilometers in 3 days. I don't know exact numbers, but your feet are going to react with a lot of water and they're going to swell up, leave your boots on, my guy. Have great socks, leave your boots on. But the big thing that I took away from that old guy talking about the desert, he's a dude with a smile. Let me tell you, man, when things get hard out there in this training and they evaluating you at the booth, you get that instructor a smile, have a good day, I'm on my way, mate. That's a huge deal, man. Huge deal. I can't how many people kill themselves with misery and then they just get worse. I'm a happy person, man. I'm gonna be smiling. I don't care how bad it is. I'm trying to make it better and not worse.
Straight across the shoulders, because that's just a hold in there. That's where all pain is.
Fatigue and unpredictable terrain are the cause of sprains and strains. For those crippled by their exertions, bright red panels on their packs ensure easy pickups when aerial rescue becomes necessary. As the casualties mount, the numbers still in contention fall. These hardy few are now running on empty.
People are going, well, if this is how I feel at this stage, I'm not going to make it.
Injuries, exhaustion and a loss of willpower mean this is the moment of truth.
There's a lot of people dropping out, eh? I've got nothing left.
For days on end, hungry and tired, they've marched with crippling loads. And then, the navigation phase is over. For many, it's been a test of endurance beyond their limits.
I think the pain was all over the body.
I'm just going to say this, navigating a barbed wire fence after all that exercise can be a deadly evolution. I'm just telling you, find your stomach ripped open by barbed wire fence. I'm looking at this dude get over this fence. I'm like, golly, man, I might try to lay on the ground and shimmy under it. Because going over it, man, and I'm exhausted, I don't want a barbed wire fence.
The remaining volunteers are returned to barracks. With their bodies and minds reeling and the promise of more days to follow, many realise their SAS dream is over.
Sort of sitting down going, is this for me? What do I get out of it? Why am I doing it?
Throughout the long night, knowing what lies ahead becomes too much for fragile psyches. A trickle of withdrawals becomes a flood.
I think that staying awake when you've been awake pretty much for 5 or 6 days is the most difficult thing. The body's trying to shut you down.
I've never been so crippled in my life as trying to walk in bricks, frozen bricks, with wet socks, feet that resembled marshmallows.
And I can recall being so tired that I saw some dairy cows that went past and they were upside down, walking upside down.
There's only one way to join the New Zealand Special Air Service, to pass the arduous 10-day selection course.
Not everyone passes, nor should everyone pass. Would not have the calibre of the soldiers that could handle the types of missions or tasks that they're expected to do.
10 days. Man, they hitting them 240 volts of gasoline and electricity. 10-day selection and they getting it down. You know they giving them the business.
The exhaustive search for the right recruits has meant that only 7 of the original 50 volunteers remain.
8 days down to 7 from 50. We have 15% in 8 days. I'm just gonna tell you, like, I don't know what they're doing. Is grade A legitimate? It's legitimate. Like, there's no way to put it. Get down to 8 guys or 7 guys in 8 days. Woo.
If being starved and kept away for a week wasn't already enough to break their spirits, then the next task surely will. In addition to their combat load, they must carry a full 20-litre jerry can through harsh swampland for 24 hours.
It's always been talked up as a nemesis and the thing that's going to exert most pain on your body and most pain on you mentally. The challenging part is the fact that the people's minds believe that it is the hardest.
Exercise Vontinsky. This is our opportunity to weed dreamers from those who are going to carry on.
Like when athletes hit the wall, this is our wall.
And to make things even tougher, they must all take turns carrying a second jerry can.
And they'll check to make sure those caps are tight, you know. If anybody drops any water in those, you'll get a punishment for it.
Identify north.
They will be told a direction to travel in, and that's pretty much it.
Without on their set course, they must push through whatever obstacle is in their path. Once Bontemsky is underway, there's only one way out, the finish.
Soldiers don't have to reach any destination. When it's time to stop, the activity will stop.
That's a killer, folks. Not knowing how far you're going, how long it's going to take. It's a killer on the mind. You also got an extra jerry can. Who's carrying their weight? Instructors, you know the instructors are watching. Some guy dodge. They're going to dodge that can. They're going to ding him. They're going to put him out. So you better be carrying your weight. I'm going to carry that extra jerry can. I'm going to carry it for an extra 5 minutes every time it's my rotation. I want to make sure I'm getting my licks in.
Overloaded with little room to maneuver, it's a slow and painful trudge forward.
It's just about putting one foot in front of the other. Dogged determination to get through to the other end.
That's a lot of weight, especially when you start carrying the two, because it requires more balance. And you've got your pack on your back, and you've got a rifle slung as well.
Again, it's another 40 kilos when you're talking about weight.
40 kilos, 4D. That's another 90 pounds. Okay, so we talking about, they're close to 175 hundo. They got a radio. What I thought was a light quickly turned into a large person on your back. They carrying Joe from around the corner at the bar. You sure you want it? You want it that bad?
Dog-tired bodies trying to put one blistered foot in front of another is agony. Even the environment conspires against them.
Yeah, I got cut up pretty heavy trying to push through.
Oh, elephant grass will cut you to shreds. It'll cut right through your uniform. It'll cut you to threads. You'll be standing there bleeding to death.
That's where it hurt. It really started to hurt.
Hour after relentless hour, the task remains the same.
It was cold.
2 minutes.
It plays havoc when you stop. It's generally when you cramp up, so the best thing is to keep going.
A break offers little comfort as cold, wet clothes add extra weight and boots rub against raw blisters.
My feet went soft, and it was just a matter of letting them rot away at that time and sort it out later.
Bontemski is performing to expectation, testing each man's fortitude to breaking point.
Any thought of getting out of there or about going home, everything seems to cross people's minds at that point, and it really tests do they really want to be there?
If the volunteers try to sneak in extra rest breaks, the staff push even harder.
Hurry up, doesn't take that long to sort out your gear.
Knowing SAS troopers have endured far worse during actual missions.
I don't know what the packs weighed, but they weighed more than we did. Probably 1.5 times what each individual weighed.
While fighting raged in East Timor, an SAS patrol faced their own Von Tempsky in an effort to protect a village from armed militia.
There was a particular village that was of interest to us. There was reports that militia were again harassing the local populace.
Facing impassable terrain, the only access was by foot, so each man had to carry his own equipment, supplies and water for 10 long sun-baked days.
Those were carrying, you had to carry 4 litres of water per day, but we could only carry about 7 days max. Plus we had the food, plus we had ammunition, radios, our webbing, packs, sleeping gear. So it was out of control.
Thank God for helicopters. Thank God for boats. Thank God for the wheel. Cause go read Bravo 20 if you want to know what a man is capable of. Bravo 20, SAS, British SAS over in Iraq, I believe, first Iraq war. Go read what a human body's capable of, man. Absolutely incredible feat, like climbing Everest with no oxygen and no clothes on.
I mean, we'd have to get lifted on our feet by 2 people.
Used to patrolling long distances in training, in East Timor, the terrain and pack weight proved exhausting.
We could only walk for about 15-20 minutes in about 35-40 degree heat with no water before we'd have to have a break.
It's mental and physical toughness which drives Special Forces soldiers beyond the capabilities of most. For 14 hours, those left have carried close to their own body weight through New Zealand's toughest terrain.
It tests the individual, it tests them to an extent that you question why you are here and why are you doing this.
Just when the volunteers think they're getting a rest and some food, they discover it's not chocolate being handed out, but glow sticks.
And this guy said, another 10 to go. I couldn't believe it. It just blew my mind. I said, you've got to be joking me, mate. He said, no, we've got another 10 hours to go.
This moment is make or break in Bontemski.
Once again, you never at the finish line until they tell you to lay down and go to sleep. Don't get tempted. Do not think that because you stopped and they handing out snacks that you at the finish line. Just keep going. Be ready to go a little bit more. Be ready to go a lot more. But don't bite the apple. Don't think that you finished. Ooh, glow sticks. Ooh, they in their minds.
The big scary. You just got to get inside yourself and just keep pushing on.
Somehow, all 7 find the willpower to carry on.
He has to have willpower, but he has to have that. He has to believe in what he's doing and have that determination. which comes from an absolute belief in your own ability to achieve and to keep going under any circumstances.
The absolute self-belief that I am capable of doing anything. I have the innate ability to do the impossible consistently, not sometimes, consistently. I will get the job done. Love it!
If he's got that, then he's got that different thing.
After continuing all night, Von Tempsky finally comes to an end. The 7 have made it through. Selection is almost over, but there is one final challenge ahead.
Let's go, SAS, New Zealand! Hey, man, and episode 2, man, we rocking it out. Listen up, I know y'all saying they coming slow. I gotta wait for the copyright infringement stuff to clear, so this video will hit hard. Hope y'all enjoyed this bad boy. Bring the fire.